Before we begin the video, if you haven't yet, come on down and join my Discord server. Link is down in the description. Ninjago Masters of Spinjitzu has ran for almost 10 years, and over the course of the series run, we've had 15 main installments with more on the way. Some of these installments are good, and some not so much. I'm Daily Warlord, and today we're ranking all 15 main installments of Ninjago. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel for another video. So, with Master of the Mountain over, I want to spend the rest of this year doing videos like this, top 5, top 10, and rankings, but also updating older videos. It's been over a year since I last made this video, and before Season 11 as well, so it's definitely time we update it. We'll be discussing all 13 seasons, the pilots, and Day of the Departed, but the LEGO Ninjago movie will not be here. So with all that being said guys, let's begin our ranking of every single Ninjago season. I was not a fan of Season 11 when it aired, and I'm still not now. I know some like to separately rank the Fire and Ice chapters, but I don't, and they would both be here at the bottom. This season was a complete mess. I don't even know where to start. I guess the biggest issue was the plot. There is too much filler, stuff like Kaiju and Absolute Worst, and then the main story is really rushed. A story being too rushed or too slow is bad on its own, but both in the same season, come on. And this is not even it. The ninja are all very bland in this season. Lloyd is generic, Kai is a crybaby, Jay is comic relief. As for the villains, Asphira is mediocre, Vex is alright but generic, and the Ice Emperor should have been this season's greatest success, but he doesn't have nearly enough screen time. There's also stuff like the humor, the tone, and let's not even discuss clutch powers. But I did enjoy stuff about the season. I felt Forbidden Spinjitzu was really cool, and I also liked Akita. In the end though, first season with the show's best concept ever, the final product we got just wasn't good. Day of the Departed is barely better than Season 11. It suffers a lot from only being 44 minutes, and as you can imagine, it's really rushed. It really should have been a full season. The conclusion to Cole's story is just very lame, and the villains too. Yang is a boring villain, Stambakai is comic relief, and the other villain is not so good. I personally wasn't a fan of Pythor being evil again, but thankfully Moro wasn't ruined. Cole's whole forgotten thing comes out of nowhere, and the Rift of Return is plot convenience, and I felt this ghost story was phenomenal in Season 5, but unfortunately it didn't have a good ending. I will say though, this special had a good concept. It was fun to see our favorite villains back after years, and I think the special touches on some nice themes of remembrance and legacy, but the story was clearly meant for a full season, not 44 minutes. Season 7 Hands of Time is a really boring season, and there are a few things I liked. I felt Wu was pretty good this season. The concept rocked, the season got off to a strong start, and had a wonderful ending. The rest of the season though, not good. The middle episodes, 68 to 70, are very bland. The Time Twins as villains completely lack interesting motives, and they're some of Ninjago's worst villains, especially Krunk. I think the Vermilion are really cool, but you have Ragmuck and Blanc who are awful, and I did enjoy Kai Nia, but Lloyd was really bad. And the Ray of Aya story was really unsatisfying. It felt to me like, oh, that happened, instead of, wow, this is really cool. There was stuff I really enjoyed about the season, but most of it was boring and not memorable. Unpopular opinion time, but I'm not really a fan of Rebooted, and I would say this is definitely Ninjago's most overrated season. I will say though, this season has my favorite scene and episode of all of Ninjago, that being Zane's death, but the rest of the season, not the best. I'm not a fan of how this season's plot seems to change every 2 episodes, and it feels like a lot of elements are repeated. Borg gets captured, the tower gets invaded, the ninja go to a foreign location, but here's the thing, all of these events happen twice in the season, and I feel the story is just a mess. But there's also the love triangle, which is still Ninjago's worst subplot ever, but it was successful in making sure all 3 characters involved were awful. These are not my only issues with the season, but there's a fair share of good stuff as well. Sensei Garmadon was really cool, and I enjoyed Pixel and Borg as well, and Pythor's return was done fantastically. While I don't think the season is awful, I don't really find it to be good either. March of the Odi is barely better than Rebooted, and this season gets a lot of hate, and I can see why people don't like it. As the grand finale to the Odi trilogy, which was phenomenal up until this point, it just doesn't work. The Odi are very bland villains, and Omega is barely a character. Also, it is undoubtedly Ninjago's most rushed story yet, and the 4-episode thing really holds it back. Many of the subplots feel useless or pointless, especially Jay and Nia's thing and Cole's fall. But here's the thing, I actually like March of the Odi and think it is a good season. In terms of emotion and development, this season is fantastic, especially with Garmadon, but also Lloyd, Kai, and Nia. A lot of people overlook how deep, complex, and mature this season's themes are, and in that sense, the writing was really good. There's also a lot of nostalgia and references that I enjoyed, and I would call this season a beautiful mess. While the story may have fell flat, it still does have heart and soul. A big step up from March of the OD, we have the 2 or 4 pilot episodes, and these make up Ninjago's very first installment. I would say my only biggest issue is they could have been longer, but if it was, would it even be a pilot anymore? I love the simplicity of the pilots, and I think they do a great job at capturing what Ninjago's all about. Technological, but also traditional and fantasy aspects, that's really what Ninjago is. It does really well in introducing the 4 ninja and Wu, and this is still one of Kai's best performances yet. On the other hand, Garmadon is a wonderful antagonist, and the twist ending with the golden weapons was fantastic. Unfortunately though, I don't really like these skeletons, as Samukai is just not a good character. As for why it isn't higher up, well, other seasons are just way better, and ultimately 2 episodes can't really compete with full seasons. Next up, we have Prime Empire, which was a massive sigh of relief after season 11. Despite this though, there are definitely a few issues. First of all, none of the ninja really change or develop, not even Jay, who was meant to be the focus. Also, Unagami needed more screen time, and this season isn't very memorable. However, I do like Prime Empire. It may not have much depth, but it has good fight scenes, an interesting environment, and it pulls off this video game idea surprisingly well. When it comes to this season versus Rebooted, this season definitely does better with the video game or technological environment. I really love the power-ups and the lives, and the animation looks fantastic. I would say this is the best animated season of the 3 Wild Brain ones. I also really like the side characters. Okito and Dyer are pretty good. Racer 7 is pretty good as well, and Scott, he's alright. And Unagami was a good villain too. In the end, I feel Prime Empire is a good but not great season. In 8th place, we have Season 2, Legacy of the Green Ninja, and I think this is a good season, but its first half gets a lot of criticism. Often called the filler episodes, this season's first half is hit or miss. I would say about half the episodes are good, the other half not so much. I mean, I don't dislike these episodes, and there's definitely good moments, but ultimately the Mega Weapon is a letdown, and the episodes are too random. If only for the first half, this season would probably be below March of the OD, but luckily this season has a second half, and it is way better. I really enjoyed the Dark Island story, getting to see Dr. Julian and the Temple of Light, both awesome. The Lloyd and Garmadon dynamic is fantastic. I still love the final battle, and of the 2 season, this is definitely the Overlord's better season. It's a shame the entire season wasn't as good as the second half, because otherwise it would have been ranked a lot higher. Taking the leap from good to great seasons, we have the first season, Rise of the Snakes, which I feel is really underrated. It may not have the most interesting story or villains, but this season does all 6 ninja really well. All 4 ninja, as well as future ninja Lloyd and Nia, have very compelling stories, and the idea of true potential is introduced so well. Mainly for Lloyd, it's his story with Garmadon, which is a story that continues nearly 10 seasons. This is a really interesting season for Garmadon. It shows he isn't an entirely pure evil villain, and there's definitely conflict in him. In this season, all of the main characters aren't just good, but great as well, and this may be the only season where I can really say that. As for the villains, the Serpentine aren't the best, but they've got an interesting concept and really good backstory. Scales and Pythor also serve as good main villains, and I think this season was a very good start to the series, but it isn't the best. Next up, we got the most recent season, Ninjago Season 13, Master of the Mountain, and it was the very first Cole season, and I really enjoyed it. I feel this season was one of Cole's best seasons yet, and I feel it handled backstory really well. I really love the emphasis on backstory and how Cole's mother did not have a crazy dramatic death, but just simply died of natural causes. In addition to that, I feel the idea of the Months and Geckos is handled really well, and I love this idea of the 2 warring races. Unlike the last 2 seasons, this season feels memorable because it also has this plot thread of the buyer, who will likely be a 2021 villain. Shintaro as a setting is definitely one of the better environments, featuring a broad range of characters such as Vanya, the Months and Geckos, and also the 3 Upply, who are certainly a welcome addition to the cast. As for the villains, the Awakened Warriors and Griefbringer are alright, and Vangelis is good but not great. He kind of misses a deeper level that other villains do have. Nonetheless though, I really enjoyed Master of the Mountain, and this was definitely a strong season. Entering top 5, we have Skybound, which I feel is a tiny bit better than Master of the Mountain, mainly because Skybound has a much better villain. Nanakon is just so awesome. I love his voice, his design, and his motivations, and I feel he's definitely one of the best villains yet. Now, Skybound does have a weak area, and that would be the first few episodes. I would say the first 3 episodes or so just aren't the best. The whole prison arc thing doesn't really work, but the good news is that the season gets a lot better in the second half. And this was easily Jay's best season of the show. It showed that he could be more than just comic relief, and it's really a shame more seasons aren't this good for him. Nia was good in this season too. I felt it was a good continuation of the Water Ninja story, and her relationship with Jay is done really well. Regarding the time reversal at the ending, personally I don't mind. Is it a bit lazy? Absolutely. but it wasn't like the ex machinas we had in other seasons. Skybound is by no means a perfect season, and it does have flaws, but when it's good, it's really good. Season 5 seems to be the fan favorite season, and while it isn't my favorite, I really love it. Now in terms of characters, this season is probably Nia's best season yet, and it was definitely time for her to officially join the team. Cole has also done really well. It was definitely a shock to see him become a ghost, and this story was set up really well, although sadly Day of the Departed did not do it justice. One thing I love about this season is it greatly expands the world of Ninjago, introducing not only Spinjitzu but also the 16 realms. The Curse realm is expanded wonderfully, and there's also Moro, who I still think is one of Ninjago's best villains. I also really like the route they took with Garmadon and actually deciding to kill him off. The Lloyd and Garmadon dynamic isn't brought up too much in this season, but when it is, honestly, some of the best stuff of the series. And overall, Possession is just really good for the characters. I wouldn't say any of the ninja are bad in this season, and they're all either good or great. As for any issues, honestly not much. Not a big fan of the Cloud Kingdom, but it's alright. Overall though, Possession is just a fantastic season. Moving to Final 3, we have Season 9 Hunted, which I feel was a really innovative season for Ninjago. Although it's fairly common nowadays, this was the first season where the villain had already won, and I feel it handles the whole two storylines thing very well. In the first realm, I love the emphasis on dragons, and I would say this is probably Wu's best season. And I really enjoy the Dragon Hunters as well, including Faith. And as for Iron Baron, he gets a lot of hate, but I personally don't hate him actually. I think he's alright. There's also the Dragon Armor twist, another way in which Hunted is really innovative, and certainly didn't see it coming. Then there's also the Ninjago storyline, which I very much enjoyed too, and Lloyd was done really well. In terms of villains, Harumi and Garmadon are my favorite villains of the entire series, and I would say this is maybe even Garmadon's best season yet. What's really wonderful about the season though is the writing. The themes and messages are just done so beautifully, as well as the character arcs. My biggest issue with this season though is Dareth, and I honestly don't know what they were thinking giving him this big of a role. Despite this though, the rest of the season was truly fantastic. In the runner-up position, we have Season 8, Sons of Garmadon, and I think this was the best decision the show's ever made. Sons of Garmadon is the series' darkest season, and I love this kind of dark storytelling. It's a shame we didn't get more of it. The recast for Lloyd was a wonderful idea, and I feel this is his best season, and he pairs up so well with Harumi. The Sons of Garmadon may be nothing special, but Harumi is one of the series' best villains. She's sadistic, emotionally manipulative, and mentally twisted. Her relationship and betrayal of Lloyd is something that's brought up even now, and it still remains a big aspect of Lloyd's character. She truly left an impact on him, and she believes she was doing the right thing by making Garmadon the new leader. But I enjoyed this season for other reasons too, such as Baby Wu and Cole, the return of a horrifying soulless Garmadon, and also the animation. I believe this is the best animated season yet, with beautiful episodes like 84 and 79. And about the finale, it still remains such a shock that Ninja actually lost, and nobody saw that coming. It was just such a fantastic finale. Season 8 just really revived Ninjago and was a masterpiece, but there is one better season. My favorite season of Ninjago is by far Season 4, The Tournament of Elements. I would say this season is pretty close to being perfect. After Rebooted, this season did a great job fixing the flaws, as well as resuming the story, and I feel this is both Zayn and Kai's best seasons. And for Cole and Jay, the love triangle was awful in Season 3, but it's actually given a really nice ending here. Like Season 1, I feel this is one of those seasons where every ninja has a really interesting story, and this includes Garmadon. Garmadon was good in Season 3, but way better this season, and I also really enjoyed the backstory. It was a genius idea to explain more on the Serpentine War and the Anacondri, and also you have the Elemental Masters. Can you imagine Ninjago without Elemental Masters? Seriously, this concept really redefined Ninjago and was such a well done idea. And for the villains, Chad may be more silly and playful, but I like him, he is still intimidating. Klaus is also a great right-hand man, and I like that he appears later in the series. And the Anacondri cultists are cool too. And the ending, Garmadon's sacrifice, so well done, wonderful conclusion for his character, and the moral cliffhanger, great stuff too. And then there's also the humor. This is probably Ninjago's funniest season. I could go on and on about why I love this season. It's just so fun, there's so many awesome stuff, and for those reasons, it is my favorite season of Ninjago. And that's about all for this video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed my updated look at ranking the seasons. This video took a while to make, so if you haven't already, it would be very much appreciated if you would subscribe. Anyways guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, share with anyone and everyone you know, leave a comment explaining your thoughts on my list and also your own rankings, and I'll see you guys next time.